Hey, I'm Yoad. Welcome to my studio. Good to see you here again. What is DeEsser and why do we need it? When we speak or when we sing, we have some sounds which are basically bursts of noise. The sounds s, sh, ch, ts, z, and sometimes k and t are basically really loud noises that can really stand out from a vocal performance and grab your attention when you want to concentrate on the emotion and you don't want to be reminded that this was recorded to a mic in a studio and you have some technical issues that stand out. In order to treat those sibilant sounds, we need to isolate them and to treat them separately in a way that doesn't affect the entire performance. Sometimes the difference between a professional mix and one that isn't so professional is the way the vocals are treated and how the sibilant sounds are getting addressed and taken care of. These sibilant noises are relatively easy to treat when they come on their own, meaning without the use of vocal cords. When we say s, we're basically exerting air through the gap between our tongue and our teeth. When we say z, we do the same thing, but now our vocal cords are engaged as well. When we say t, again, it's just noise, but when we say d, it's the same mechanical function that creates the sound, but now the vocal cords are engaged. When we have a vocal track, when someone is singing, and we have the voice producing high harmonics, it's harder to distinguish between the high frequencies of the noise, the sibilance, and the voice itself, which makes it harder to treat just the sibilance. Let's look at some types of DeEssers. We'll start with a very simple one and we'll work our way through. It was somewhat hard to find raw vocals on Splice because everything is so treated. And unfortunately, I can't use raw recorded vocals from productions and mixes that I work on. So this is what I could find.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I never been.
When I add basic compression and some EQ, the sibilance will really stand out.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I never been so wrong.
So it's very clear that we need to address them. This is a classic DeEsser, and I will now explain how it works. This DeEsser splits the signal into two frequency ranges. So we have the cutoff point. Everything below that frequency will stay intact, and we're just addressing the signal that is above the cutoff point. And what we're doing here in split mode, we are basically reducing the high frequencies of the signal which is above the cutoff point. You can look at it as a two-band dynamic EQ where only the top band is active. And this will sound like that.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I never been so wrong.
So now we can listen to the sidechain. We can listen just to the high frequency. So that's what the DeEsser is looking at. And the lower we get in frequency, the more chance we have of catching some of those high harmonics of the vocal, which is not something we want.
Together, but I never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it? My heavy heart is broken, but now you're telling me that yours.
So we want to set the frequency to a range which will be ideally above the vocal content, but will still catch some of the lower frequency sibilants, such as sh and ch, because the S and the T are higher. We want to be able to catch all of them so we can control all the sibilant letters.
Have opened. I thought that I was special.
So now we are addressing the high frequencies that fall above the cutoff point. There's another way, which is the bell mode. So now we are addressing only the frequencies around the cutoff point and not all the way up. This is especially useful when we want to address certain letters like sh and ch, which are occupying the lower range of the sibilant letters. Let's see how that sounds.
I thought that I was special and we will be together.
Now, since we have less energy in that range, we can lower the threshold in order for it to catch more sibilants.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I've never been so wrong.
So this works really well for this vocal. Now, there's another way of doing that where we use the same sidechain, so we use the same detector. However, now we're going to switch to wideband mode, which means that whatever the detector detects, which is the high frequencies, it will now trigger compression over the entire range. So it's basically a normal compressor with the sidechain taken from the high frequency band.
Tell me, was it worth it? My heavy heart is broken, but now you're telling me that yours have opened.
This method could be really good, especially when we have female singers and they're singing quite loud and at a high range. Because then, even if we catch some of the voice, it's not going to make it dull. It's just going to reduce it in level.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I've never been so wrong.
The risk with using this method is that sometimes in a mix, it can sound lispy. So the S's can sound like th. Now let's look at a different type of DeEsser where we use a dynamic EQ to make our own DeEsser. So now I'm taking the high band, which sounds like this,
I thought that I was special and we will be together,
and I'm reducing the level of that EQ band.
but I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it?
The benefit here is that I can control the Q, so I can make it more wide or more narrow.
My heavy heart is broken, but now you're telling me that you're
So I can make it really, really narrow, and that will prevent it from catching some of the high harmonics in the voice itself.
opened. I thought that I was special and
So this should be very effective.
we will be together, but I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it?
Another type of DeEsser is one that uses many, many bands and has much more resolution. So it's not reducing the entire range, but it can address specific harmonics. And this sounds like that.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it? My heavy heart is broken.
So it's more gentle, it's less noticeable, but because it's only addressing the highest resonances, it is not as effective because we're very used to the sound of DeEsser. In pop mixes and in rock mixes, it's an integral part of the way we're used to listening to mixes. There's another method of treating sibilance, which is a more surgical one. This is a more intelligent processor which can detect sibilant sounds and letters, and it sounds like that. So this is very surgical, and now we can decide where the sensitivity of the detector is. We have to make sure that it doesn't detect any other letters.
I thought that I was special.
And this is the amount of gain reduction.
But I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it?
So this is very, very aggressive.
My heavy heart.
I need to use it carefully. I can also decide whether it will reduce the entire range, like a compressor, or work in split mode where it only reduces the high frequencies. So in wide mode, it can sound a bit aggressive.
I thought that I was special and we will be together.
And in split mode, it will sound smooth, but it may not be enough.
But I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it?
I usually do something in between.
My heavy heart is broken, but now you're telling me that yours have opened. I thought that I was special and we.
The way I use these DeEssers is having the classic one before the EQ and compression, and having the more modern, gentle one post the EQ and compression. And it will sound like that.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I've never been so wrong. Tell me, was it worth it?
And let's hear it without any protection.
I thought that I was special and we will be together, but I've never been so wrong.
So obviously we have to listen to the vocal in context to make sure that it doesn't sound too compressed, but this works quite well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do, and I'll see you on the next one.